In our initial discussion, we delved into the captivating tale of how Europeans set foot in India, with Vasco da Gama's historic arrival in Calicut in 1498 marking the beginning of a transformative era. Fast forward to 1502, and Vasco da Gama returned with an imposing fleet of 15 ships and 800 sailors, determined to make a lasting impact. This time, he successfully defeated the formidable King Zamarin, asserting Portuguese dominance and seizing control of Calicut. Setting up his base at Cananwar, Vasco da Gama played a pivotal role in shaping the European presence in India. Subsequently, the ripples of European exploration spread far and wide, with each major power seeking its share of the Indian riches. The timeline and locations of these European arrivals are outlined. In 1498, the Portuguese arrived in Calicut. Subsequently, in 1600, the British established a presence in Gujarat. The Dutch entered India in 1602, establishing themselves in Masulipatam, Andhra Pradesh. Following suit in 1616, the Danes set foot in Tamil Nadu. Lastly, in 1664, the French established a foothold in Pondicherry. Tragically, Vasco da Gama's journey reached its untimely end in December 1524, when he succumbed to malaria in Kochi. Yet, his exploits laid the groundwork for subsequent European ventures into the Indian subcontinent. During Vasco da Gama's initial forays into India, the king of the Vijayvansh dynasty was Amati Narasimha Rayulu, while Sikandar Khan Lodi held sway over the Delhi Sultanate. The Portuguese, pioneers of this maritime exploration, established a lasting legacy. Their initial arrival in Calicut in 1498 paved the way for the establishment of trading bases, with the Estado da Índia 1505-1961 emerging as a key player. Noteworthy is the fact that the Portuguese were both the first and last Europeans to leave India. The Portuguese, operating under the company name Estado da Índia, initially engaged in piracy through the Hooghly port in the Bay of Bengal. Over time, they transitioned to legitimate trade, exporting spices from India. Kochi served as their initial capital before they later relocated to Goa. Several favorable conditions contributed to the Portuguese success story: the decline of Islamic traders' influence in the Indian Ocean, the superior strength of Portuguese ships, internal strife in Persia, the weakening of the Lodi clan in North India, and the incompetence of Saluva Narasimha Deva Raya as the king of the Vijayvansh dynasty in South India were crucial factors. Moreover, the local Malabar populace sought Portuguese assistance against the extortion by Arab traders. The disintegration of North India into smaller states, except Gujarat under Muhammad Biora, further played into Portuguese hands. The fragmentation of the Bamani kingdom into smaller entities and the establishment of powerful naval bases further solidified Portuguese influence in the region. This enthralling historical narrative highlights the complex interplay of geopolitical, economic, and cultural forces that shaped the European footprint in India during this period. Some Portuguese individuals served as governors for Estado da Índia. Francisco de Almeida from 1505 to 1509, the great Dom Francisco in the annals of Portuguese history. Francisco de Almeida stands tall as a nobleman, soldier, and explorer. His valor was showcased as a counselor to King John II, notably in the wars against the Moors and the conquest of Granada in 1492. In 1505, King John II entrusted him with a pivotal role, the governorship of India for 3 years, with ample troops to safeguard Portuguese interests. Almeida's mission was formidable: consolidate Portuguese position in India and disrupt Muslim trade by conquering Aden, Ormuz, and Malacca. Challenges loomed large, including a threat from Egypt's Mameluke Sultan and the Zamorin's resistance. The Egyptians, with support from Venetian merchants, built a navy to counter Portuguese advances. The clash in 1507 off the coast of Du resulted in the destruction of the Portuguese squadron, with Almeida's son losing his life. In a swift turnaround the following year, Almeida avenged the defeat, setting the stage for the ambitious blue water policy also known as Cartesi system, with the goal of Portuguese dominance in the Indian Ocean. Alfonso de Albuquerque from 1509 to 1515, the founder of Portuguese power in the East, a towering figure in Portuguese history. Alfonso de Albuquerque assumed the mantle of a general, admiral, and statesman. His legacy is etched as the true founder of Portuguese power in the East. Under Albuquerque's command, the Portuguese fortified their hold on key shipbuilding centers and instituted a permission system for other ships. Goa, a chief port of the Sultan of Biopper, fell to Albuquerque in 1510, marking the first European control of Indian land since the days of Alexander the Great. Albuquerque's approach was multifaceted. While displaying cruelty towards Muslims, he formed strategic alliances, gifting high-quality horses to Vijayavanga King Sri Krishna Deva Raya. His governance reflected a dichotomy, opposing the blue water policy while encouraging Portuguese soldiers to marry Indian women. Notably, he banned sati during his rule. Albuquerque's tenure concluded in 1515 with his passing in Goa. Loposaurus de Albergaria from 1515 to 1518, expanding Portuguese forts in the era of Loposaurus de Albergaria. The Portuguese footprint expanded with the establishment of forts in Colombo, Ceylon, present-day Sri Lanka, and Colombo, reinforcing their influence in the region. Diogo Lopes de Sequeira from 1518 to 1522, explorer and diplomat renowned as an esteemed explorer and former designated captain of Malacca. Diogo Lopes de Sequeira made significant contributions. He erected forts in Shaw, Maldives, and Paesum, fortifying Portuguese interests. Beyond military endeavors, he dispatched embassies to Ethiopia, Pegu, and China before eventually returning to Portugal. Duarte de Menezes from 1522 to Philip XX for returning to Portugal. Duarte de Menezes, a former captain of Tangier and the grandson of Duarte de Menezes, Count of Viana, faced dismissal from his post, compelling his return to Portugal. Nino do Cunha from 1529 to 1538, shifting Portuguese headquarters in November 1529. Nino do Cunha assumed the role of administrator of Portuguese holdings in India. Under his stewardship, the Portuguese government headquarters shifted from Cochin to Goa. Noteworthy events include conflicts with Mughal Emperor Humayun and alliances with Bahadur Shah of Gujarat, shaping Portuguese influence. The relocation of Portuguese nationals to Hofi aimed to enhance influence in Bengal. Martim Afonso de Sousa from 1540 to 1545, the last Portuguese governor. Martim Afonso de Sousa, the final Portuguese governor in this period, witnessed the significant visit of the esteemed Christian priest Saint Francis Xavier to India. The resting place of Saint Francis Xavier's tomb remains a poignant reminder in Goa, concluding this chapter of Portuguese governance.